Welcome to the Head Shepherd Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Ferguson, CEO at Next and Agri International, where we help livestock managers get the best out of their stock. Before we get started, a big thanks to our three fantastic sponsors. Allflex, part of MSD, perhaps better known as Cooper's Animal Health in Australia, offers one of New Zealand and Australia's largest livestock product portfolios with a comprehensive suite of animal health and management products. Heininger is a one-stop shop for wool harvesting and animal fibre removal. The Heininger team have a deep understanding of livestock agriculture, backed by Swiss engineering and a family business dedicated to manufacturing the best. ProA Livestock Equipment have been delivering industry-leading livestock handling systems to producers across Australia, New Zealand and beyond for the last 25 years to improve on-farm safety, efficiency and profitability. We are grateful to our sponsors for their support, helping us bring Head Shepherd to you each week. And now it's time to get on with this week's episode. Welcome back to Head Shepherd. You're with Ferg. Great to have you listening along as always. This week on the show, we welcome Bea Litchfield from Hazeldean, Angus and Merino Genetics. Many Australians will know that name pretty well, even further abroad will know that name. Bea's now Managing Director there at Hazeldean, having come up through the ranks since joining the team. The Hazeldean's been in business for 160 odd years, a long part of that breeding Merino rams and for the last 60 odd breeding Angus bulls, and a significant operation now turning out around 600 bulls and 400 rams. So really significant seedstock enterprise. Great to have a chat with Bea. We cover all things Hazeldean, but I guess around how that innovation has been a key part of how, or the DNA of the business really as they've gone through. So before we get into that, just a quick reminder that the 26 2000 is underway. I think by the time this goes to air, I'll be sitting around 580 Ks into that 2000 Ks, maybe a few more. We've got a few days until that'll clock up. But if you are inclined to support the cause, which is all around the Cure Brain Cancer Foundation, helping supply some much needed research dollars and awareness for brain cancer. There'll be a link in the show notes to throw a few dollars towards Cure Brain Cancer Foundation. That would be fantastic. There's 50 of us out there doing various bits to take on this 26 2000. And thanks to all of you out there that have already contributed, and thanks to all of you out there that are actually running, walking, or rowing or riding your 2000 Ks for the calendar year. Righto, we'll get underway with this week's show and welcome Bea Litchfield to Head Shepherd. Welcome Bea Litchfield to Head Shepherd.
Thanks, Ferg. Glad to be here.
We had a couple of false starts at trying to get this organised. It's always the way with busy people out on the farm. You're sixth generation there at Hazeldean. Maybe just talk us through your career to date and when you knew that coming back to Hazeldean and taking that baton on was something you wanted to do.
Yeah, so I've been back at home for, this will be my 11th year. So I studied ag science at UNE and Sydney, and I did a bit of a stint on exchange in a Canadian university at University of Guelph. I spent a bit of time on a seedstock ranch in America, in Texas, and did a bit of time in a corporate ag company in Sydney before returning home, and came home 2015, which was our 150th year. Last year was our 160th year, and I've just gone up the ranks through our business and took on the managing director role just at the start of this year.
Yeah, awesome. So was that always the plan? You knew from a young age that you were heading home?
Yeah, I think it's funny. It's very much, I think, in your blood if you love it or not. And I've got siblings, and when we were kids, I always just loved being outside doing anything on the farm, riding horses. And I used to wait at the stables before school to go with our manager at the time to go and birthway the stud calves, which my siblings thought was a bit crazy, but that's what I like doing. So yeah, it's always kind of been what I like doing. And I suppose as I've got older and more around the business side of things, I love learning more about the business side around the seed stock industry, and also just having those grassroots of enjoying working with cattle and sheep.
Yeah, excellent. For those who haven't come across Hazeldean, and lots of people in Australia will know all about Hazeldean, or at least know the name pretty clearly. But yeah, just talk us through the business as it sort of stands there today.
So we run a Merino stud and a Angus stud. They're both relatively large scale. We have a commercial Angus herd and a commercial Merino, self-replacing Merino flock, which is a really good ground truthing of what we're breeding in the stud enterprise. So we run, it's basically 4 enterprises, but they very much complement each other.
Excellent. And just to give us a bit of an appreciation of what scale means in your head, and you're obviously being humble, but you do sell the odd bull and the odd ram?
Yeah. So we're selling about 600 Angus bulls and 400 Merino rams a year. So they do get a bit of spread on them.
Yeah, and that's eye-watering numbers for many people, especially on 600 bulls. That's a fairly significant seed stock operation in anyone's currency. While it does look like the land of milk and honey out the window when we saw a bit of video footage there before, it is green at the moment, but Cooma is not known for always being amazing. It's high above sea level, cold winters, feels a lot like the South Island of New Zealand when I drive through there. Is that climate and sort of production system shape the type of livestock that you and your previous generations have selected for?
Yeah, definitely. It is. I mean, it certainly isn't the land of milk and honey. It's a pretty tough environment, the Monero, but it does. We obviously put a bit of artificial selection on our cattle and sheep in the stud operation with using breeding values and selecting for certain traits, but this environment also puts a significant amount of environmental pressure on particularly our females, so that it really enhances our selection pressure on the biggest profit driving trait of fertility. Our cattle our mature breeders have got to go through pretty tough winters and then be able to rebreed into the spring often before a break. So it does have that layer of pressure that really dictates that fertility boost. And we see that anecdotally through our clients' herds as well, that they do see a significant lift in their fertility. And I think it is that inherent environmental pressure of being bred in tough conditions, so that when they do go to other tough conditions, they can still perform. And similarly, if they go to slightly softer conditions, they really, they jump out of their socks.
Yeah, one of those great places that everyone wants to leave. So things would move well, getting away from there and going to, which is where we want seed stock to be. Has it always been the same proportion as Merino sheep and Angus? Have they scaled differently over time, or has it sort of always been a cow dominant with sheep smaller proportion? Or
no, the Merino stud was started in 1865, and it was predominantly a sheep operation, and the cattle were introduced in the Angus stud was starting in 1960, and then it's gradually we've expanded the cattle operation, and the sheep operations probably scaled back a little bit based on markets and demand. That being said, the Merino side is still a significant part of the business, but it's the wool boom of the 50s that was driving a lot of demand and production back then. And it's hopefully the wool market is going to keep on improving. It has had a big lift recently, which is really positive, and it needed to. But it's I don't know if it'll ever get back to that 50s level.
We can only hope, but it's nice to see it.
Yeah,
it's nice to seeing it sort of alive and breathing at the moment. So a little bit better than where we've been for a little while.
That's right.
I guess one of the things that when you read a little bit about the history of the family there and the business there is that, it seems to me anyway, that each generation's embraced the sort of measurement technology of their era, with each generation continuing to innovate, which is kind of rare for some businesses that have been around as long as yours can sort of somewhere along the line lose their way and focus on something that they've sort of innovated and then just stop innovating. Have you got any theories on why the family or the business have philosophies around continuing to innovate?
Yeah, I think we are really fortunate that the culture within our family has never been, we do it this way because that's the way that Dad's always done it, or that's the way that my grandfather's always done it. Because the way that my grandfather did it was to innovate. So the culture is to innovate, which puts pressure on each generation to keep pushing and keep adopting new technologies, which is it's a really good place to be. My grandfather was a pioneer in the adoption of objective measurement and the use of particularly ASBBs in the sheep industry. And at that time it was not well embraced and there was a fair bit of pushback. And he was very pivotal in the uptake of that, as well as Breed Plan. Breed Plan was launched at Hazeldean back in the day. And yeah, that's very much been the culture within the family of improving, that sort of in continuous improvement and always looking for that next bit of genetic gain and the next bit of technology that we can adopt to make things easier, with whether that's in terms of our genetic base or, on farm with, farm tech that's out there, which has been, I very much appreciate that's been the driver behind each generation.
Yeah, excellent. It's awesome one. You need a founder we need someone in the business that's driven that, but then you need everyone to follow suit, which is obviously what's happened. And you probably can't overstate kind of pressure he would have had on him to do things a different way in terms of those early days of measurement were definitely not embraced by the industry, and it's probably only really recently until we've had sort of the momentum swing the other way. So yeah, there would have been plenty of hard conversations back then, as there has been in the last few decades as well. But great to stick to the collective guns and keep measuring and keep selecting for performance.
Yeah, that's it. Well, when you know it works, it works. It's good.
That is true. It gets pretty addictive once you know how powerful it is.
Yeah.
You now have access to genomically enhanced breeding values across both sheep and cattle. Obviously, the foundation of that genomic power is all of the phenotypic performance recording that's been done over the many years. How do you, I guess now you're sort of, or as we all do in breeding programs, you're balancing what the phenotype is and what the genotype's telling you. What's that look like on a day-to-day sort of selection strategy?
Well, I think phenotypes are still king. You need the phenotypes to drive the genotypes and the genomic predictions. So I think there is a little bit of a risk at the moment within both the Merino and the Angus worlds of relying more on the genomics and being able to spend less time recording the phenotypes. But the phenotypes are critical for being able to keep those genomic predictions relevant and up to date and as accurate as possible. So we're very much committed to collecting phenotypic data and ground truthing the genomic predictions. We'll continue to do that, and I think as technology advances, that allows more phenotypes to be collected to drive the genomic predictions and be able to make those estimated breeding values more accurate. Because at the end of the day, they are still estimated breeding values. And as we go forward, we're just getting closer and closer to that estimation being closer to what's actually physically happening in the paddock. And the only way to do that is through objective data measurement.
Yeah, great points. And as we've talked about plenty of times on here, it's easy to say, okay, genomics will do it all now. We'll just forget about the phenotypes, but we know that doesn't work. And particularly, I guess, traits that are really high priority, like fertility and things, we need those phenotypes to keep flowing through, as we do with all of the traits. But one won't fire without the other. Even though genomics has really lifted the accuracy of what we can do, it certainly doesn't replace that requirement to continue to measure stuff.
That's right.
You got bulls going all over the place and rams going all over the place. Two, I guess, quite different. Well, they're in different systems, different selection pressures, different traits of focus, different breeding objectives. I guess having running those two side by side, what do you, I guess contrasting those, what do you do you pick up one from the other, like learn something in cattle that you then applying to sheep, or learning something in data systems that you apply the other way, or are they just sort of independently operating?
I mean, a lot of it's principle based. So there is a fair bit of overlap in terms of, our recording systems, simple things like management groups and keeping that consistent, and all the software that we use is the same between the Angus stud and the sheep stud. There's probably a few intricacies that are slightly different when you're dealing with a breed society in the Angus versus the Merino in sheep genetics, and there's a few extra costs associated with that. And there's I'd say there's a lot of similarities, and like you do pick up efficiencies with how you might measure a certain trait in sheep and be able to apply that in the yards with the cattle. And that's probably the main thing.
Yeah, and I think the principles are, whether you're breeding guinea pigs, goldfish, or Angus or sheep, the principles of quantitative genetics don't really change, and we just apply them differently to different traits. But of course, your clients span from the depths of Tasmania to the heat of Queensland, which is just about as extreme as you can get in terms of environment. Plus, if you put the sort of a bit of snowdrift in around Cooma as well. I guess, how are you catering for that difference across those clients? Is there particular cattle that'll go one way or the other, or is it sort of individuals kind of source the type of cattle they like, and hopefully they adapt to the environment they end up in?
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, on a whole, our commercial clients are following our breeding objective, and we breed our cattle with a focus on fertility first, growth, and carcass, and then we have our non-negotiables of structure and temperament. So on a whole, they're following in that same breeding objective. We do select more cattle that are better suited for the Queensland environment through a coat type, so that we're not sending those coarse hair types up to Queensland that won't handle those conditions as well. But I think it comes back as well to what I was talking about before with the environmental pressure that we have on the Monero here, where the breeders are run, that lack of nutrition through the winter and into the spring really sets them up. Like, there's a real inherent baseline fertility. So when they go to those harsher climates in Queensland, even though it's a different temperature, and it does have that same nutritional effect, and so they still do perform under poor nutrition circumstances. So I think, I mean, it's all just having that really strong and strict breeding objective and sticking to that over a long period of time that enables our genetics to perform in different environments, because it has been so set and so selected for.
Yeah, cool. I've never really thought too hard about how you build and then ship 600 bulls. What does sale program look like? Is that, I know you obviously have a couple of auctions, but is there some private sale bulls as well as auction bulls, and it'd be a fairly significant job getting that many bulls out the door?
Yeah, well, it's staggered through the year, so it's not all at once. But we've got an autumn sale in May, and then we have Queensland at the start of August, Tamworth mid-August, and then back for a spring sale in Cooma in September. And then we do offer private sale bulls throughout the year, as well as a few contract sales with bigger clients. So they go through the year.
With I guess you now at the helm, and so your job is to be as innovative as possible to continue your family legacy. I guess technology is changing at a rate that we've never seen before as a globe, I suppose. Not necessarily all coming to ag, but certainly we'll be getting to ag. What do you see as the next sort of significant leap in either what we're measuring or how we're measuring it, or the next chapter of Hazeldean breeding program? What is stuff coming down the line that you think that will enable you to put your stamp on Hazeldean?
Yeah, I think we're very much on that cusp of technology gain. Like there's a huge, even just in that AI space, there's a huge opportunity and potential for a lot of industries, and I think ag's no exception. And it's just being able to having that. I think that's what's in front of us, is having that ability to measure more traits that were possibly harder to measure in the past, that we'll be able to start getting objective data on. I'm quite excited about those halter collars and being able to detect the first heat of females, because that's been the missing link within the fertility equation for quite a long time, being able to get objective data around when they've come into that first heat, which would be a big game changer for selection. And I think the AI space it will allow us to make pretty significant improvements quickly.
Yeah, and I think we're probably at a point, as you say, we're on the cusp of things that are happening. We probably can't imagine maybe what they will be yet, or certainly not with any clarity, but we just see how it's changing everything that business is. And so and the great thing about it is it's making everything more accessible. So ag, in this time, this technology revolution, ag won't be left out on the sidelines. It'll be very much part of it, because just because of the power that the power that AI enables us to use any technology in ag, which is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, and the efficiencies that will drive will be huge in terms of being able to reduce your costs based on even your labour costs, with utilising tracking collars that'll be huge. So I think it's a very much a changing space, and just being able to identify the technologies that are going to make that significant change or effective change will be really important, because we've seen in the last 10 years, there's been technologies come out, and you do have to filter through what is actually effective and beneficial, and what's, it might be nice to have, but it's not critical to your business, and it's not actually making you more efficient or more effective.
Yeah, really good points. Is there anything about the rate of change currently and the change you see coming that makes you nervous, or is it all upside?
I like to keep pretty positive about things. I think I like to see more potential than negativity around it. I think there's a lot of upside. Obviously there's things that we can't control in the current world climate that will make us rely even more on technology, with the cost squeeze that's coming at us. And I think that, we'll continue to see situations like that. I think it means more than ever that you've got to be just looking for efficiencies, and technology is the biggest driver of efficiencies. So I think it's got a lot of potential to improve farming businesses.
Yeah, I had a pretty strong inkling you were going to be an optimist, not a pessimist, so expected that would be the answer. The last question we ask everybody these days is, who's the best human you've had the pleasure to learn from?
Well, I'd have to say, being in a multi-generational business, having the opportunity to learn from multiple generations within the business is a real privilege. And I was really privileged to spend quite a lot of time with my grandfather, who was a gentleman in every sense of the word, and was also a trailblazer within the Merino and the Angus industry, and very well respected from everyone in the industry, as well as our whole community. He had a lot of time for everyone. He'd give his time to anyone from any walk of life, and he showed a lot of leadership within the industry. So I really learnt a lot from him when we spent time together when I first came home and throughout our childhood. And then equally working alongside my dad, he's really brought a lot of efficiencies, and he's got an unwavering commitment to making things as efficient as possible. And that's been very much ingrained in me from childhood. So I think that's the beauty around multi-generational businesses, is you have these leaders within the business that come with their own strengths, with my grandfather coming with a real push and real culture of innovation, and then Dad taking that up, and then him putting his stamp of efficiency on there, me coming through, and I'm building on both those bases, and also really focusing on that sort of continuous improvement within the business from a people point of view, and the genetic improvement of our Angus and Merino studs. So we're really lucky to be able to build within a family business like that.
Yeah, great answer, and doesn't sound like it's got anything to do with luck, but as it never has, it's always about creating your own luck. And obviously extremely fortunate to have those great people around you growing up, and I'm sure they're super pumped to see you at the helm now. That's it for today, Bea. It's great to spend a bit of time. Thanks for pulling over in the paddock to get a few words recorded. Congratulations on all that is Hazeldean these days, and your current position leading the show. It's it's certainly an enormous seedstock business that has a massive influence on the Australian genetics. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Bea. It's been good to chat.
Thanks for listening, and thanks again to our 3 fantastic sponsors. Heinegger, who are proud world leaders in the manufacturing and supply of professional sheep shearing and clipping equipment. Allflex Livestock Intelligence, part of MSD Animal Health, offer an extensive livestock product portfolio focused on animal health management, all backed up by exceptional service. ProWay Livestock Equipment offer turnkey solutions from design through to professional installation, and specialise in facilities that are tailored to your specific operation for all livestock species. We thank these 3 great companies for their ongoing support of the Head Shepherd podcast.